This is one of those topics that I get asked about a lot, and so, hey, why not answer it today? We're going to talk about content creation and specifically how I'm able to generate such a substantial amount of content. And if you are creating content for clients or to grow, especially to grow your own expert business, where you're getting recognized for your expert, your authority status in a marketplace, you absolutely need to know that publishing is power. Publishing is power in these businesses because it gets recognition, it brings traffic in the door, it gets engagement with your followers, and it can ascend followers up to paying customers. So today I want to share with you the 7 tips to massive content creation. And I'm a total content machine. You know, subscribers ask about this. By the way, if you have a question you'd like to have answered, you can check the link in the description to ask Roy your question. But on Breakthrough Marketing Secrets, I stopped counting after I hit over 2 million words of content since 2014. At the beginning of 2020, I started doing daily videos instead of daily articles. And so in addition to like the description and the call to action to get somebody to actually watch the videos, I'm creating all of this video content. And I've been publishing daily content again since 2014 in BTMSinsiders, in my training library for copywriting and marketing. There's over 190 hours of content that I've created there that you have instant access to as a member. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm generating a ton of content. And these 7 tips will help you whether you aspire to goals like that or you just want to be more effective at whatever content you put on your content calendar. So, tip number 1 for you is have a process. Create a process for publishing and production. Try to optimize the process, make it work better, make it work smoother. Outsource elements of the process that make sense for you to outsource. I have an assistant who helps me with all the publishing tasks so I can really just focus on, okay, I need to create the episode and I need to create a publishing document, and I pass those off and then they're done, and then just follow the process. And when you have the process, you get into a rhythm. My daily episodes take less than 90 minutes from beginning to end for me. Plus I have that publishing support there. And I can do those, I don't have to do those every day. I can do them stacked up. I can do them batched. Tip number 2 is work to a deadline. You should always work to a deadline, especially when it comes to regular content creation. You should learn how long it's going to take you. There's the old Parkinson's law that work will expand to fill the time allotted to it. And so if you give yourself 8 hours to create content, it's probably going to take 8 hours to create that content. If, like, I give myself 25 minutes to outline it. I give myself a little bit of a flexible time, but certainly no more than 30 minutes to record. And I give myself another 25 minutes to create the publishing document for my episodes. And I'm always working to that deadline, and I pretty much always hit it. Speaking of that 25 minutes, I typically do that as a focus mate session. It's just a really useful video co-working tool. You can also come up with a publishing calendar. Now, me in particular, I don't come up with a publishing calendar necessarily that goes out a bunch of days or months and weeks into the future, whatever it is, and say, these are the topics I'm going to cover on these days. Although I certainly understand marketers who do that in order to hit certain goals throughout, the week as far as what they're going to talk about and how that contributes to maybe promotions that they're running at the time. I tend to do mine more dynamically. So I'm basically speaking to what inspires me on a daily basis, but I still have a calendar of when episodes are going to get published. And that's Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Central Time. And I have to have my stuff done so that they can be published on time. So I'm always working to that deadline. Tip number 3, do what I'm doing right now. Answer questions. Answer subscriber questions, audience questions. The more content that you create, the more engagement you're going to get from your audience, and the more questions that you're going to get from people who are interested in knowing more. And so just collect those questions. I actually have a mechanism. It's a survey where it's a type form, right? A form that you fill out where you give me your single most important challenge or question that you are facing right now about marketing. And that link is in the description if you want to see it, if you want to submit your questions. If you have questions like that, if you collect questions, then you can answer them in your content. Also, if you have a sales team, if you work with a sales team, if you're getting sales questions and objections through maybe a support inbox, answer those in content. You can even use them in your sales process or make them available to your sales team. But that's a highly effective way to create content your audience will find valuable. Tip number 4, the language I picked up from Dan Kennedy, the GE spot. You want your content to hit the GE spot. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be good enough. It has to be good enough, and then you ship it. What you can get done, if a piece of content for me takes 30 minutes to get to 95% to 98% as good as it can be, it may take another 30 minutes or an hour or 2 hours or 5 hours to get it to 100%. And so if I'm willing to accept that my content on a daily basis is going to be 95% to 98% as good as it can be, every episode that I put out, I aim for it to, I don't want it to be crap. Like, I don't want it to be half as good as it could be. But I just choose my path and I walk it until I'm at that 95, 98%, and then I release it, right? You cannot be a perfectionist and have a large amount of output. You have to be willing for things to be imperfect. So make them good enough. Tip number 5, keep an idea file. My recommendation for you is to always be collecting ideas. Always collect ideas. If your job, and I don't say job meaning like employment, J-O-B, although it may be, right? If your job is to create content, if your role is to create content, if your role is to share content, you want to collect ideas anywhere and everywhere that you can. So for example, I may get an email and it may have, hey, I'm interested in knowing how you create so much content. Awesome. Okay, collect that idea. Okay, I may be reading a book and I may have a quote from it that is particularly inspiring, or a lesson from it that I really want to be able to share and reflect on. Just collect those ideas. In particular, as you can see if you're watching the video version of this episode on YouTube, I work from Workflowy for creating and for recording this content. And I have a whole collection of ideas here in Workflowy of potential episodes. You want to collect more ideas than you'll ever use. Some of them you can you can put in maybe a someday maybe file, which is saying, I'm not going to do that anytime soon, but I may come back to it later. Some of it you may put into a, hey, next piece of content I need to create. You put them on the list there, right? But the whole point is you want to be collecting ideas constantly if you're creating content constantly, because those ideas to work from mean you're not working from a blank page. You should have a big list. You should have 5 or so big topics you consistently come back to, right? So for me, among those are copywriting and conversion architecture and personal development and entrepreneurship. I have big ideas that I consistently come back to and I talk about. And because I'm talking about those on a regular basis, like number 1, I'm attracting an audience that's interested in those topics. Number 2, they're familiar to me and easy to talk about. Number 3, by keeping them top of mind, they keep my subconscious focused on potential ideas that I could use for creating future content, right? But you don't want to be totally repetitive. And so you always want to approach all of these ideas from a new angle each time, right? You want to approach the ideas from a new perspective with a new story, perhaps, right? Or a new discovery or a new observation or, whatever it is to make it feel new and novel. And the good news about that is that we're constantly growing, we're constantly developing, we're constantly changing. And when we grow and develop and change, our perspective on all of this changes, right? So I could be talking about copywriting and I could be talking about scientific advertising, right? As a book that I read in my first year as a copywriter. And what I would have said about scientific advertising in my first year as a copywriter, which is, almost 20 years ago, is very different from what I would say about scientific advertising today, right? So we just always are coming at it from a new perspective. Tip number 7 is to outline. As you can see, I work from an outline. I also tend to write from an outline. It is very quick and easy to get your ideas out if you brainstorm and outline first. You just want to get a bunch of ideas out. So initially, I wrote a headline for this episode that was something like 7 secrets to something content marketing, right? And I ended up editing that. Now it's 7 tips to massive content creation. But I basically just wrote tip number 1, tip number 2, tip number 3, tip number 4, tip number 5, tip number 6, tip number 7, and I started filling in what those different tips would be. And then once I had that list, I started filling in the notes that I wanted to say for each of those tips, right? So I just got all of that out very quickly. And then, in this case, I'm actually recording this, but you can also write from an outline. And either way, it's quicker to create from an outline than to start from scratch. Now I have a bonus tip for you. The 3 R's: reduce, reuse, recycle. Well, reduce, maybe you just want to reduce your time per every piece of content that you are creating. Reuse, find ways to reuse ideas. I would love it if I did a better job of reusing different content that I created in different places. And I suppose that's a form of recycling too, or you recycle different ideas, right? But the whole point is to look to get more leverage out of the same amount of content creation. And so something as simple as a best of series. Oftentimes, if I have some reason why I'm stepping away from regular content creation, whether that's doing something with a family or holidays or something like that, I may do a best of series where I'm reusing the same content, resharing the same content. At other times, I'm looking back at past content and saying, how can I come at that from a new way, etc. Now, don't forget, if you're doing content creation, especially for content marketing, don't forget that content marketing is marketing, right? And so from a strategic perspective, your content marketing needs to support the sales process. It needs to support the buying decision. It is not enough to just create a bunch of content and get a bunch of attention. You want quality attention from qualified prospects, right? Who then, because of the attention you got with the content, take the next natural step towards making a purchase decision. And in that regard, you want to give them the next action that they should take as a result of consuming the content. So always create your content with a plan of the next action you want them to take. And my call to action for you at the end of this episode, number 1, ask yourself, how can you use this? How are you going to use this going forward? Did you have any good ideas, good tips from this that you're going to use? Don't forget to like and subscribe so you get more content like this delivered to you. And make sure you check out the link in the description to content marketing to grow your business. If you are creating a lot of content, you want to make sure that you're doing it strategically and intentionally in a way that supports the overall growth of your business. And the link in the description takes you to my training on how to do that. It's part of the BTMS Insiders streaming library of copywriting and marketing courses. There's links to all that good stuff in the description. I'm Roy Furr. This is Breakthrough Marketing Secrets, and I will catch you again in the next episode. I'll see you soon. Bye. Thank you once again for tuning in to this daily episode of Breakthrough Marketing Secrets. Remember, check out the links with this episode for even more value. Now make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, and engage in every way you can to keep this show going and growing and delivering daily value to you. I'll catch you soon for your next big breakthrough.